Former five-star QB Jacob Eason returning home to Washington. After he told Chris Peterson that he was solidifying his commitment to Georgia in December of 2015, Jacob Eason got some parting words from the Washington head coach. "When I was being recruited out of high school, Coach Pete always said, if I ever needed to or had the opportunity to come home, he would have a place for me," said Eason. "That was something he told me. When it was going down at Georgia, I had that in the back of my mind." Eason, who starred at Lake Stevens, Washington, earning Gatorade Player of the Year honors in 2015, committed to Georgia in the summer of 2014, when Mark Richt was still the head coach at Georgia and months before Peterson coached his first game at Washington. But when Richt was fired shortly before Eason was set to enroll, he visited Peterson, trying to figure out what his plan would be. Eason ultimately opted to head to Athens, and he started 12 games as a true freshman in 2016. Meanwhile, across the country, Washington and Peterson won the Pac-12 and played in the CFB playoff in the Peach Bowl. This year, Georgia was a trendy pick to be the SEC East champion, with Eason behind center, a year of experience under his belt. An injury in the opener, though, sidelined him and inserted Jake Fromm into the lineup. With Georgia rolling, Fromm held on to the starting job and Eason started thinking back to the words Peterson said before his departure in 2016. After the national championship, Eason announced that he was leaving Georgia. And on Tuesday afternoon, Washington officially announced that Eason would be enrolling there and the spot that Peterson always left open for him would be there. "I think it's going to be awesome," said Eason. "To be back near my parents and my family, to play 45 minutes away from my home, it won't be too much of a hassle for them to come see me." And Eason is eager to play his games inside Husky Stadium. "I'm excited to play in the greatest setting in all of college football," said Eason. Eason said he never envisioned being in a situation where he'd return home. After a successful freshman year, he figured he'd keep that going with the Bulldogs. "You don't ever really think about those things, but it didn't end up happening the way I thought it would at Georgia," said Eason. Prior to Eason's leaving for Athens, the Huskies were coming of an 8-6 season and a 7-6 campaign in Peterson's first 2 years. Now, he returns to a Husky program that has gone 22-5 the last 2 years, won a Pac-12 championship in 2016, played in the college football playoff and followed it up with another berth in a New Year's Six Bowl. Their ascent wasn't lost on Eason. "No doubt that was another thing that my dad and I looked into, the caliber and the level of play," said Eason. "Washington had always been a top 25 team, but now they're a top 10 team. They have some great guys who play for great coaches. Plus it is in my backyard. Then there are the academics, which are a great thing, and they have a lot to offer at the university." Eason will sit out the 2018 season as part of the transfer, and he'll work with the scout team while Jake Browning enters his 4th year as the starting quarterback for the Huskies. "It will be another different type of year for me," said Eason. "But I'm excited to get in there and learn the playbook and to get out on the field. This year is going to be beneficial. I'll get to kind of work at my own pace and learn the things that UW football is all about. This year will be a big learning year." One aspect he's excited about is learning from new offensive coordinator Bush Hamdan, who spent the last season down in Georgia as well, coaching Matt Ryan as the quarterback's coach for the Atlanta Falcons. "Working with Bush, I'm excited," said Eason. "He's a great guy from the experiences I've had with him. I've talked to him every once in a while. He's a younger guy, so I think we'll connect really well. He's a hard worker and I respect that about him. He's a real professional guy, and seeing what he did with Atlanta and what he did with Matt Ryan, he'll bring that same fire, and I'm excited to learn from him." Having spent the last 2 seasons throwing against SEC defenses, and working against a very good Georgia defense in practice, Eason said he feels like he's gotten a good tutorial on college defenses. "There are going to be great players anywhere you go, but we had phenomenal talent at Georgia and in the SEC," said Eason. Even when you come back home, the talent, and speed and strength, that definitely helped me out. Having those first 2 years under my belt will help be a great transition going to UW. One of the most decorated players to come from Washington in years, Eason said he's thrilled to reunite with many other Washington natives that are playing for the Huskies, including some that he threw with in the off-season when he was playing 7v7 for Ford Sports Performance, like Hunter Bryant and Salvin Ahmed, and his former Lake Stevens teammate, walk-on receiver Josh Rasmussen. That was another thing, I knew a lot of those guys, said Eason. They're all hard-working guys, in it for one thing, and that's to win as a team. That's just like me, I want to help out my team, whether it's the first team or the practice squad. That's what I want to do. I'm excited to reconnect with those guys, get in the right room and build relationships with those guys and make relationships with the rest of the team. But more than anything, Eason is thrilled to finally get to play for Peterson. Coach Pete, I look forward to learning from him and playing for him, said Eason. When I told him I was ready to come home, he was excited. We both were at that point. Coach Pete has always had this real calm and collected vibe about him. He was excited. I was excited. As soon as we can do it, we will, and just overall, we're ready to go. Eason will enroll at Washington next month and will get to work out with the Huskies in spring ball. I think we start on March 20th and I'm excited to work in spring ball, said Eason.